All right, you guys kept asking for it, and today I'm going to try and deliver on that in the first of a series probably of videos as I start comparing these to other adjustable dumbbells. But today I'm going to talk about my first impressions, honest thoughts about one of, if not the most anticipated home fitness item that has been coming out in recent years, these Rep Pepin adjustable dumbbells. They are all metal in construction. This one is their heavy set, goes up to 125 pounds. They are very compact and they are also fairly balanced, but I will say they are not perfect. And that's what I really want to primarily address in this video, is give you guys what I personally be looking for and also my thoughts about would I really invest if I were you guys on this versus another pair. Of course, I did go ahead and purchase these, not sent to me free for review. And if any of you guys want a quick backstory, I actually did try these over at Home Gym Con last year, but I did mention after trying them out that yes, I went ahead and pre-ordered it a long time ago. Long story short, I canceled that pre-order for my Ironmaster adjustable dumbbells. I had a whole video on that. Also link that down below for a number of reasons. Only now to go ahead and repurchase them, taking a hit because they have gone up in price. That is one, definitely a con with this. The price is fairly expensive for this 125 pound set. But I really wanted to do so because I started going down a little mini rabbit hole for me personally, but also definitely for you guys in comparing what I think are the best adjustable dumbbells as far as if you want something that is above, say, 90 pounds, so 100 pounds and above. So I got my new Dumbbells, the Power Block 175s, of course the Ironmaster, a full loaded set. I think it goes up like 185 or 195 or whatever. I will do a deeper dive in that video in the future. I think there's just so much stuff to talk about, and I'm still continuing to kind of pick up and choose and grab random dumbbells so I can give you guys a very thorough rundown about what do I think is the best dumbbell, checking various boxes for certain people. But for right now, as of course, I really want to focus in on these and talk about how these things feel and function at the end of the day. And I did have someone mention that I was flexing all these expensive adjustable dumbbells, and that is of course not the case. I'm reviewing these things honestly for you guys, and it is somewhat of an investment. And to be honest, generally I kind of lose money. So if you guys do want to help support me in the channel, keep honest reviews like this going. Really help support me if you guys check out those affiliate links for really any of the adjustable dumbbells I'm mentioning, but of course these Rep Pepins as well, or anything from Rep Fitness. Since these are super popular, there's already tons of videos out there outlining the major pros and cons and some great videos I should add with that. So I really want to focus in on how I personally think these things feel and perform here in a second. But just to give you guys some bullet point pros and cons in summary that I think are definitely true for sure. First off, all the bullet point pros, we got this thing has a max weight capacity of 125. You can get the incremental sets to get up to that. I think it'd be a little bit of an eyesore, honestly, buying the Cradle and not having to fill it out, but it is great that you can start small and work your way up, especially if you want to piece it in pricing that way. But other than the actual weight capacity, going up to 125, which is probably functionally, you're probably high enough for most people unless you're getting things like clean snatches and maybe heavy rows, stuff like that. That would be totally suffice for most people's needs. It is also very compact for that weight compared to the competition. 125 is very impressive, and actually I was surprised out of the box how compact these actually look in person. I think they appear bigger on actual camera than they do in person. The other thing going forward is it is in that category of a quick change adjustable dumbbell with these rods that slide back and forth. Does have this nice, as people say, satisfying sound, but does have a potential issue with that. We will get to it. Other thing it has going for it is just the incremental jumps in weight. So it's nice and even in 10-pound increments. And then if you want to fill this little gap in here, they have these 2.5 pound additional weights that have this nice little nifty pull pin here. Has a pro and con and also kind of a trust factor with it because it's kind of scary when this thing goes over your head. You're wondering if it'll actually hold. I trust it probably will. I say it probably, but you're always going to be in the back of your head. Has this little space in here so you can pull this out. You don't want to scratch the powder coating, which could definitely happen. I've scuffed up mine when I was actually getting into the Cradle. I'll talk about that. So I'm fine-tuning the Cradle. See how that likes to stick up? That's a little minor annoyance, but you can always push this down or up. But what is great is that with these little adder weights, here's the second one here. With that, it allows you to kind of adjust in 2.5 or 5 pound increments, which is nice because most people are probably jumping in that standard jump, 10 to 5, maybe 2.5 or something like that. Something else that I think people might say is a minor thing, I think it's always a major thing when you buy any product, especially if it's a home fitness product, is aesthetically how it looks and also how it performs, and do you really want to use it. Of all the adjustable dumbbells, at least so far, granted I'm in the honeymoon stage and some of that's kind of worn off, this looks very cool. I mean, that's the thing. When I first got it, it was like getting a brand new toy. It wasn't like getting just another adjustable dumbbell. It has a unique feature to it. It has somewhat of a novelty with these little push pins. So all that combined with the aesthetics and the way it looks and performs, makes you want to use it, which I think is very important with any product, honestly. The balance is also there. That is a giant thing. I just covered the 100-pound Dumbbells, and I said an issue was it kind of likes to move around in your hand, and other adjustable dumbbells like the Snowed, other kind of quick change adjustable dumbbells that have a rod, tend to have like a different feel how it sets in your hand. This is very balanced. Now there is definitely something that comes off as an off balance. I'll get to that here in a second. But for presses, I would say rows especially, all that stuff, it does feel good. Notice the handle is also pretty compact, and I think that's an important thing. When you get to things that are, especially even the Iron Masters without the heavy handle kit, you don't want a whole lot of space between where your handle is and where the weight is. And that you definitely notice, at least I notice that a lot. And you can tell when I get into this in a second, when you do things like chest presses, you can tell if people's hands are kinked one way or the other because of maybe the displacement of the weights to where the handle is. Also, really great knurling here. The diameter is also nice. It's not too thin. It's definitely thicker than, I'd say, the Iron Master. I would say thicker than a standard dumbbell. For people say this is like a standard dumbbell dimension. Certainly depends on the dumbbell you're using. The knurling is not aggressive. It's not light though. It's probably in the sweet spot for most people's needs, but I do like the way this feels in your hand, no question. The color of this, I noticed too, seems like an off, like almost like a gold accent to it. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or bad thing, but when I compare it to the other adjustable dumbbells, as far as the handles, how it looks, it's not as silver or shiny silver of a look. And granted, these are still pretty new, so it's not like it's dirt, at least as far as I can tell, but it almost has like a gold tint to it when I notice it on camera, and also when I'm looking at it under this light. As cool as these little push pins are, there are cons to this. So if I were to set this at 50, which by the way, it's kind of hard to tell, it took some trial and error to get to this, but you kind of just know when it's closer to the notch. That's what I do. So sometimes I might do that. I notice I'm at 60 is closer. Whenever it's closer, I feel like the actual button's touching the little notch. I know it's there. But when it is there, I notice at 50, you can kind of tell right here as I grab this, see that knuckle right there? It does rub against my knuckle. And I noticed that even at the home gym count when I was first trying out the prototype, I thought they'd really correct that. And maybe they did. Let's go down even to like 60 here, just so I can show you. But you can see as I just grab in and want to grab this, maybe this way is easier. So I can show you from this angle. If I kind of go in here, you can see how right now I'm just hitting that each time. And if I did do something where I just grab like that, you can see I pop the push pin right out. That's definitely a risk, and there's oftentimes, especially in the first few times I was using this, I would set it down and I'd realize either before or after the push pin was not fully pushed in. So that's obviously a safety concern when you're talking about these rails on the side that are moving out and back, and you don't want those coming in. Usually you can tell if there's something happening when you do go ahead and set this and you got something there, or something's at 50 versus 40, that it just feels a little off or unbalanced. That is something too, that's a con whenever I was racking it with a certain weight, that you have to put it down directly on top or it likes to kind of get stuck. So you really have to make sure that when you rack it, you're setting it down right over here on these notches. You can't really get something where this thing's angled at an angle because it will grab and get kind of taut. And I had a few instances where it took me a while to kind of get the hang of it, but I was pulling up excess weight because I just was not dialing down the right pin, or it was getting stuck on something in the way I was kind of setting it down. And then I did already address this, but just to show you again, this takes up some real estate, but just the trust factor of these weights being on there. And there's always going to be a little bit of a sound to it too, which I don't think really is a big deal. Whenever you're playing with different weights or picking it up, you're going to hear some light rattling. The Cradle, while actually fairly compact and nice in design, and again is all metal, and you can see the adjustment points here, that was probably one of the biggest annoyances I had with this was first setting it up. They tell you to kind of loosen these at first, put the thing in, and then tighten it. I just found that I wish there was just one universal, just like fixed slot, because either these weren't totally straight or a little off, or even when I put them in, they started getting adjusted, even when I kind of cranked these down. So of all the things I thought were a little bit annoying, this Cradle was initially just kind of setting it for the right dimensions, because it either started getting kind of locked in, like literally couldn't pull it out. So it took some trial and error to kind of fine tune the setting. And also I started scuffing up one of my plates got a little dinged up because it started scratching against the side of that cradle. Now, I don't usually do this. There'll be a lot more B-roll footage in the future with the other videos, but I want to give you guys more of an authentic kind of just raw, uncut stuff of how I would use this and the pros and cons I've noticed with some of the major exercises. Not just your staples like curls, lateral raises, presses, and rows, but also things such as cleans, deadlifts, maybe even some snatches, snatch to presses too, which I like to do with kind of heavier weights. And that's one of the reasons I personally am looking for or wanted to gravitate more towards heavier weights. I don't need super heavy for all those basics, and certainly you can do more reps, more sets, but for things I used to do back when I used to go to the gym that I used to use heavy weights with, heavy cleans, heavy snatches, heavy cleans and presses, that was something where I kind of liked having heavy weights, and also heavier single arm deadlifts. That's what I use, those heavy 175 power blocks that are sitting off camera here. I do want to show you this though. When I got this stand here, this is just the Ironmaster standard stand. I mentioned how you need to have a kind of a flat stand in order to kind of rack it properly. I do want to show you kind of how cumbersome it really is if you got a stand like this. Now they make their new stand, which I will definitely, I think I pre-ordered it already, so that should be coming in. But I want to show you what it's like to kind of rack and unrack this. So I got the 125s here. I'm going to pick it up. It's not horrible, but you can see it takes a little bit of time to kind of guide that in there. I'll start off with just some of the single joint stuff first, everyone's favorite, bicep curls, and I'll talk about that balance. Already as I'm grabbing this, these little protrusions of these add-on weights are kind of hitting me. Now how this feels already in your hand is totally balanced. You do have this rail here, you definitely notice that, but it is relatively compact. And so as I do a bicep curl, you can hear that. You're gonna hear this little machine type sound, which is kind of cool. It doesn't really bother me. That's the weights kind of rotating. Even if you don't have those add-on weights, you kind of hear something, but with those in, you start to handle it. It is not bad, but you will feel like it's neutral, and then it kind of wants to kind of turn in a little bit right there. I found myself in some videos, maybe I have some clips of it, where I would take the rails and I would just keep them locked in like this. And for whatever reason, it just, not that it was better, it just kind of felt like it was already locked in, and I liked utilizing the rails to kind of keep my hands braced like that. But for the most part, bicep curls are not bad. I'm feeling that stuff. Again, that thing's flicking around and moving in my hand, so that is always going to be a thing here. But notice how it's just kind of sitting and sagging there. I mean, it kind of just, it's balanced, but it's going to move a little bit because of the nature of the weight distribution. Hammer curls feel totally fine. Shoulder presses also feel very good. Any kind of straight press or row is going to feel good. Lateral raises, I'm going to go ahead and drop this down a little bit. All right, now I got 15 pounds here. You can hear the noise, but for the most part, again, pretty balanced. As I'm pulling up, there is a little, I don't know, slight pull, but I'm just nitpicking here. It is pretty balanced, I'll just say that. Tricep stuff, again, doesn't really hit you too much. It is pretty compact. I'll show you guys some leg stuff here. This is 50 pounds goblet squats. Goblet squats feel fine, holding it neutral. I'll show you guys a heavy clip where I had this the other day. I was doing 125 with this. A little cumbersome, but you can still do it, holding it nice and vertical, but you can do goblet squats, no problem. Now you can grab the rails. There is that risk of the pin. If you're mindful of it, there is a learning curve. The more you use it, I think it's fine. You'll get used to it. But of course, that is a thing where you could hit this pin very easily, and that would move and adjust the weights and have them fly out. I wouldn't do this exercise. I think it's kind of weird because you're going to support heavier weight. You have to really tuck your elbows in and keep it kind of balanced. I think if you got a heavier weight, you're better off just going like this, and that's just kind of, you can keep them more kind of compact, loaded rack position. So, but if you really wanted to, you could hold the rails. You got some RDLs. I do feel these rails right here. Not a giant deal, but they are enough in the way where I do think about them doing them here. If I had something like these Dumbbells, where I'm here, I can get much closer to my shin and there's no issue with a rail. So that is a potential con if you do a lot of Romanian deadlifts. I wouldn't recommend doing this, not warmed up like I'm not right now, but got 100 pounds to start. I'll show you a couple things. First thing I will do is just, you can do things like heavy deadlifts. That's not gonna be tough, even with 125. I will show you a clean. So not too bad. Actually, it's fine. I think a clean is good, and I did try these the other day, actually. I even tried them with Iron Master and my power blocks. And I'll do that in a future video comparing that. We'll break here, and then we'll do snatches 100 and see what that looks like. This might look a little sloppy. Let's see how this feels though. Yeah, it's doable. Snatches are totally fine. Felt balanced. I'll show you these are some of my favorites I used to do back in the gym. And sometimes I put a nice little weight belt on to keep myself nice and kind of compact. If you want to see a future video about how to do these, I can show you. This is one of my favorite exercises I used to do back in the day. And this is one of the reasons I actually wanted heavier weight. So something that I could clean, keep in the rack position, and then do this overhead press, or I could push press here. And this feels great as far as how that feels balanced wise. For the hell of it, let's see what 125 feels like. Now you can see right here, I want to show you guys this. See how that gets caught? As much as I've tried to adjust this, I've adjusted this a bunch. Not huge, maybe that's just something that happens, but odds are you're probably not going to play with 125 that much, not a giant deal. Again, if you want to do things like heavier deadlifts, this is something where I think most people can pull it off and can actually do more weight than they give themselves credit for. That's where, again, like that power block 175 comes in, but definitely kind of a novel exercise. One thing to notice, and this goes back to balance, I don't know if you can see this, and this happens with my Iron Masters as well, is that I typically think the best balance is a circle. Like this is, objectively, I think the best. This is the Ken Sui and some Yes for Alls. Did a whole video on this too. If you want to check that out, I'll link that down below. But even with those exercises I just did, like that clean and press, with a circle weight, it just feels just so much nicer. There's no rough edges. But then even when I put it down, you don't feel any weight distribution. And I noticed that a lot, even with the square shape of the Iron Masters. I don't know if you can see them, they're off camera here. But I will show you, when I pick this up, say for a deadlift, notice how it kind of wants to pull sideways. And when I put it back down, it likes to go like that and then neutral. You could grab a certain way, like grab a little more inwards, a little more neutral here. So you kind of compensate for that. But the point is, there's a little pull whenever you're doing things like rows or even deadlifts like I just did there. Now I'll show you guys the 125 clean and single arm press for that one person out there who did ask about it. So we'll try the clean, then I'll just go right into that press. Rack feels good. Press feels good. Good balance coming down. It is aggressive when you feel those rough edges. I felt something, on my hand on that part, but not going to be as smooth as something like this. And definitely a con that I've noticed you could do, it's just going to take a little time, is if you want to put on something like fat grips, as I do use from time to time for some exercises for grip strength stuff. It's, I tried doing it the other day and I just gave up. I didn't feel like working through it. You could get them on, no question, you want to force it in, but if you like using little thick grips like this, might be kind of an issue or just something that's not worth your time. And because of that racking issue, I'm going to go ahead and put the Cradle on the ground. I should add, these have been heavily drop tested. They have a whole video on their website about that. So the good thing is, another huge selling point for this is you do not have to be too careful with these. Kind of a longer video here, guys, than I actually intended, but I think this is good to show you real time what it's like using this. Little learning curve, but you can see that was not a big deal at first. It took me some time, but I'm getting used to it. So right here, just doing this is, I believe, 35 pounds. Pretty balanced, but you do feel a little something. I can't really describe it. And even this, when I started doing that kind of anchoring in the rails like this, I actually kind of prefer this. I don't know why, but I prefer this feeling versus keeping it like this. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but now pay attention to how horizontal I can keep these dumbbells. You notice sometimes people are pressing and they're kind of like this because maybe they're balanced, just their overall, I don't know, just the weight for them. But I kind of want this dumbbell to feel nice and balanced. Can I keep it nice and straight and horizontal? And that's what I'm going to try here with some of the chest presses. Again, I did not warm up too much other than what I did so far, but we're going to try for the sake of this video, to go heavy, even though my body's telling me don't do it. Let's go 90. Feels good, balanced here, and feels nice and smooth. So rows, I already mentioned that as you row, it might have that little pull, but for the most part, the rows feel pretty balanced. All right, we'll do 125. I'm only gonna do a couple reps here. No idea how it's gonna feel. My shoulder's not the smartest thing. Gotta warm up, work yourself into it. But for you guys, I'm just gonna show you and kind of see what it feels like. First time actually doing 125 with these. So last time I did this was Home Gym Con last year. Let's see how this feels. Balance feels pretty good. Feels good there too. Feels good, honestly. Felt like a good balance. I want to watch that video and see how horizontal they were. That is the main concern. If you watch some clips on other videos of dumbbell presses with some other stuff, you might see stuff like this happening where they're pressing and the dumbbell is kind of sitting at an angle. That to me is a sign either just the person's grip or maybe it's not stable enough for them, but I'm usually giving them the benefit of the doubt and looking at the dumbbell as far as the overall balance. If I grab something like this is 60 pounds with a circle weight, this just feels nice and neutral. Now it is kind of slanting. There's a lot of things that could go into that, but the balance I think is always just a very important thing to consider. Now I got 60 pounds here. I want to show you a pullover. This is actually 65 pounds. That you can hold the rails and actually feels pretty good, but again, as long as you're mindful not to hit the pin, which I'm going to be, but you can do things and take advantage of these rails. So I like this, just something you got to be mindful about with those pop pins. Let me know down below if you guys like these more authentic, kind of more raw, uncut videos, kind of talking as I'm going here. I think personally that's what I'd want to see. I know everyone likes kind of flashy stuff and up close shots and talking about specs and things like that. To me, at the end of the day, the most important thing with any piece of home gym fitness equipment is really the feel and function of it. Now, with that said, the aesthetics and the cool factor, the functionality of this, the unique design about it, for sure makes me want to use this when I'm already comparing it to my Power Block or Iron Masters and things like that nature, even the Dumbbells with their quick change, stuff like that. Overall, in summary, as people have already kind of said, and as you can allude to, very solid, very awesome dumbbell. If there's any cons potentially, I think for the general person that I would be cautious of, that I'd warn people about, is of course the price tag. The possibility, which I wouldn't throw by them, especially with the nature of home gym stuff, that they could update these or change some of the issues they're having in future iterations. So that's something that is concerning. I'd like them to almost put out a statement saying they're gonna leave it as is. I did mention they have a very good warranty on these as well. They're built to last, powder coating, drop proof. I do not think these things will break anytime soon. Is there an element of unsafety? I think yes, but that goes along with a little bit of a learning curve in the beginning. I think if you're mindful of the pop pins, I didn't even address, I don't think that much initially, how cumbersome it was to kind of dial down the tension. But as you can see here, just adjusting it, just getting used to this stuff for the past, week and a half or so, I'm very much more comfortable than I was first using it. So I think it's just a little bit of a learning curve to get over. So all the major hiccups I think for most people will be out of the way as you start kind of using it. I think for the weight capacity, it pretty much is gonna suffice for most people's needs. If you wanna start pushing heavier stuff, like heavier cleans and presses, I probably wouldn't go much more heavier than maybe 135 for that clean and press you saw. However, heavier deadlifts, that's that 175, you're in the Iron Master, having the weight when it's there is nice, but you might value kind of the total package of being able to quick change, along with being compact, along with the design, functionality, everything like that. So this really is like the ultimate sweet spot of adjustable dumbbells, in my opinion. Nothing's totally, I almost said not perfect, but really nothing's perfect. It's very close. I mean, it's up there for sure. I will do a deeper dive comparing all this stuff, but that's where, again, you guys come in, drop your comments down below what you guys want to see specifically on any of these dumbbells. And I got some other stuff actually coming, other adjustable dumbbells, but anything you guys want to see comparing the Rep Pepins to anything else, and I'll make a whole flow chart and giving you guys the ultimate ranking, what I think is the best adjustable dumbbell. To me, I'm still trying it out, and you'll see the stuff in the background, me picking up and testing various exercises with the different dumbbells. So that's it, you guys. See you in the next video. Please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Check out those affiliate links down below to help support me and the channel. Keep reviews like this coming, and I'll see you guys on the next one.